Hello, this is Mr. Miller and welcome to video 5E. In this video, we're going to do a few examples of writing equations for parabolas. So if we know the vertex of a parabola at one point, this is really easy to do. So here we go. Let's get started. So here's our first example. We have this nice blue parabola here, and the key to writing an equation is to start with vertex form. So I'm going to write out y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. That's the pattern we're using for parabolas. And our goal is to figure out the values of a, h, and k from the graph, and when we do, we'll have the equation. Well, h and k are the easiest part. They're just the x and y coordinates of the vertex. So our vertex here is at 5, -1. So that means h is 5 and k is -1. We have two of the three things we need already. So we're going to put those into the formula we have and write what we have so far. So we don't know a. I'm going to leave that like that. And it'll be times x minus 5 squared plus k. That'd be plus a -1, which is the same as -1. All right, so we need to do something to find the value of a. Well, it turns out that every point on the parabola should work in the equation. So I'm going to take a point with nice coordinates like this one, 6, 1, and we can substitute 6 for x, and we can put 1 in for y. Okay, so 1 equals a times 6 minus 5 squared minus 1. So when I substitute these values in for x and y, we get an equation that only has a. And so we can figure out what a has to be. So I'm going to start by simplifying this. 6 minus 5 is 1. Squared is 1. So really we have 1 equals a times 1, which is a minus 1. Okay, that got a lot nicer quickly. So, okay, to get a by itself, we're going to add 1 to both sides. And we get a equals 2. Okay, so it turns out this parabola has been stretched a little bit. So we're going to take that and we're going to put it back into the equation we had up here. So we get y equals 2 times x minus 5 squared minus 1. Parabola's been stretched a little bit. It's been shifted to the right by 5 and down 1. That kind of matches what we see here. All right, now, there's several steps there, and I went through it kind of quickly, but after you practice a couple times, you realize every problem is almost the same. Okay, so it's just a procedure you have to kind of get used to doing. All right, let's take a look at this one. I know I'm going to need the vertex, so I'm going to mark that right away. The vertex is -4, 2 this time, so this is h and this is k. Let's start by writing vertex form. Okay, let's substitute in h and k, so we have y equals a, parentheses, we have x minus h. X minus a -4 is the same as x plus 4. Okay, squared plus k. K is 2, so plus 2. All right, well, let's pick a point. So I go along here and no points I'm really crazy about, but I see this one here. Parabola goes through -3, 1. So we're going to substitute -3 in for x right here and 1 in for y. And we get an equation for a. A times -3 plus 4 squared plus 2. That's a 4 there. So we get 1 equals a. -3 plus 4 is 1. Squared is 1. So a times 1 plus 2. All right, so 1 equals a plus 2. If I subtract 2 from both sides, I get negative 1 equals a. Kind of makes sense. This parabola is opening downwards. All right, let's write the final equation. So I'll put it here. Y equals a, well, it's negative 1, x plus 4 squared plus 2. Okay, that's the equation for a parabola. All right, we have our final example here, and even now you should realize this is kind of the same thing every time. So let's start with vertex form. A times x minus h squared plus k. This is the vertex here. It's at 5, negative 3. So that's h and that's k. So we get y equals a x minus 5 squared plus negative 3, which is the same as minus 3. Okay, let's look for a point. I see there's a point here, a nice point there the graph goes through. We have 3, negative 1. So that's the x-coordinate, that's the y-coordinate. Should make this equation true. So negative 1 equals a times 3 minus 5 squared minus 3. 3 minus 5 is negative 2, and when you square that, you get positive 4. So we get negative 1 equals a times 4. I'm going to write that as 4a minus 3. Okay? We have to add 3 to both sides. Okay? And we get 2 equals 4a. And if I divide by 4, I get 1/2 equals a. Kind of a wider parabola. All right, so let's write the equation here. I'll go over here. Y equals 1/2 x minus 5 squared minus 3. Okay, now they ask one more thing. What's the value of y when x equals 12? So we can put in whatever value we want for x, we'll get the y-coordinate out. So when we put in 12, we get y equals 1/2 12 minus 5 squared minus 3. So I'm going to do that very quickly in my calculator. So it'd be 0.5 times the quantity in parentheses, and then minus 3. I get 21.5. So once we have the equation, we can use it to find any point we want on the parabola. Okay, well, it's time for you to give it a try. So for A, write an equation for the parabola shown before. Follow the same steps I did. And for B, once you have your equation, you're going to substitute x equals 10, or 10 in for x, and figure out the y value. Good luck.